There comes a moment in your life when you realize something uncomfortable. Not everyone deserves an explanation from you. Not your silence. Not your choices. Not your growth. But most people never reach that moment. Instead, they spend their lives explaining, defending, justifying. Trying to be understood by people who were never trying to understand them in the first place. Maybe you felt it before. You say something simple, and suddenly you're over-explaining. You make a decision, and now you're defending it like you're on trial. You choose yourself, and somehow, you feel guilty for it. It's exhausting. Because deep down, you already knew your truth. But you still felt the need to convince others, just to feel at peace. And that's where your power started slipping away. Silently. Gradually. Without you even noticing. You see, every time you explain yourself to people who don't respect you, you're not gaining clarity. You're losing authority. Every unnecessary explanation is a quiet admission that you need permission to exist as you are. And the world will take advantage of that. This is where Stoicism draws a hard line. Not with anger. Not with ego. But with clarity. Because a Stoic man understands something most people learn too late. You don't need to explain your path to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need to defend your peace to those who benefit from your chaos. And you definitely don't need to shrink your truth just to make others comfortable. There's a story about a man who spent most of his life trying to be understood. He explained his decisions to friends who mocked him. He justified his boundaries to people who kept crossing them. He softened his words, just to avoid conflict. And for a while, it worked. People liked him. People accepted him. But they never respected him. Because the more he explained himself, the less certain he looked. The less grounded he felt. Until one day, something shifted. He stopped explaining. Not out of anger. But out of understanding. And suddenly, everything changed. The same people who ignored him started paying attention. The same people who challenged him became cautious around him. The same people who took him lightly started taking him seriously. Not because he said more, but because he finally said less. That's the power you've been giving away without realizing. And in this video, you're going to take it back. Not through force. Not through manipulation. But through 10 Stoic lessons that will change the way you carry yourself forever. If you're ready to stop explaining and start commanding respect without saying a word, then stay with me. And before we go deeper, subscribe to the channel, because what you're about to learn is not just philosophy. It's transformation. Lesson 1: Silence is not weakness, it is control. There was a time when you believed that speaking more gave you power. That if you could just explain yourself clearly enough, if you could just find the right words, people would finally understand you. So you talked. You explained your intentions. You clarified your decisions. You defended your actions. Again, and again, and again. But something strange kept happening. The more you explained, the less people respected what you said. Because explanation, in the wrong environment, doesn't create clarity. It creates negotiation. And the moment your life becomes something people feel they can negotiate, You lose control over it. This is where most people get it wrong. They think silence means weakness. They think if they don't respond, they'll be overlooked, dismissed, ignored. But a Stoic mind sees it differently. Silence is not the absence of strength. It is the presence of control. Think about it. When someone insults you, and you immediately react, who is in control of that moment? Not you. They are. They pulled a string, and you moved. But when you hear the same insult, and you choose not to respond, something shifts. Now they're the ones unsettled. Now they're the ones questioning. Now they're the ones losing control. Because silence creates uncertainty. And uncertainty commands attention. There's a kind of power in being unreadable. In not rushing to explain yourself. In not feeling the need to fill every silence. In not reacting just because someone expects you to. Most people talk too much, not because they have something important to say, but because they are uncomfortable with being misunderstood. But here's the truth you have to accept. You will be misunderstood anyway. No matter how well you explain yourself. No matter how carefully you choose your words. People will still see you through their own lens. So why exhaust yourself trying to control something you never could? The Stoic man understands this. He doesn't waste energy trying to correct every false perception. He doesn't chase validation through endless explanations. He lets his actions speak. And more importantly, he lets time reveal the truth. Because time has a way of exposing what words never could. There's another story, about a man who was constantly challenged. At work, people questioned his decisions. In his circle, people doubted his direction. At first, he fought back with explanations. Long ones. Detailed ones. He tried to prove his point every single time. But all it did, was invite more questions. More doubts. More resistance. Until one day, he stopped. When questioned, he answered briefly. When doubted, he stayed consistent. When challenged, he remained calm. No long speeches. No emotional reactions. Just quiet certainty. And over time, something changed. People stopped questioning him as much. Not because they suddenly agreed with him, but because his silence made it clear. He wasn't seeking approval. And when a man stops seeking approval, he becomes difficult to control. That's what silence does. It removes you from the need to be validated. It forces people to deal with you as you are. Not as someone they can pressure into explaining. So the next time you feel the urge to over-explain yourself, pause. Ask yourself one simple question. Am I speaking to be understood, or am I speaking because I feel pressured to justify myself? That question alone will change your behavior. Because once you recognize the pressure, you'll realize something powerful. You don't owe everyone an explanation. And the moment you truly understand that, your silence will start to speak louder than your words ever did. Lesson 2, the need to be understood is a hidden weakness. There's a quiet desire most people carry, but rarely question. The desire to be understood. It sounds harmless. It even sounds noble. You want people to see your heart. To understand your intentions. To recognize that you're not who they think you are. So when someone misjudges you, you feel an urge rise inside you. To correct them. To explain. To make things clear. Because being misunderstood feels uncomfortable. Almost like a personal attack. But here's where the truth becomes difficult. That need is not strength. It's dependency. Because the moment you need someone else to understand you in order to feel at peace, you've handed them control over your emotional state. Now your calm depends on their perception. Your confidence depends on their approval. Your identity depends on their agreement. And that's a dangerous place to live. Because people don't see you for who you are. They see you through who they are. Through their experiences. Their insecurities. Their biases. Their wounds. So even when you explain yourself perfectly, they interpret it imperfectly. And then what happens? You explain again. And again. And again. Until you slowly lose yourself, trying to fit into someone else's understanding. This is why so many people feel drained after conversations. Not because they talked too much, but because they were trying too hard to be seen. There's a story about a man who was constantly misunderstood by the people around him. At work, they thought he was arrogant, because he was quiet. Among friends, they thought he was distant, because he didn't share everything. Even in relationships, he was labeled as cold, simply because he didn't express himself the way others expected. And it bothered him deeply. So he started adjusting. He spoke more, even when he had nothing to say. He explained himself, even when it wasn't necessary. He opened up, even when it didn't feel right. He tried to become someone people could understand. And for a while, it worked. People felt more comfortable around him. They complained less. They questioned him less. But something inside him started to fade. Because in trying to be understood, he stopped being authentic. He wasn't acting from truth anymore. He was reacting to perception. Until one day, he got tired. Not angry. Just tired. Tired of explaining. Tired of adjusting. Tired of performing for acceptance. And that's when the shift happened. He made a quiet decision. I will let people misunderstand me, if that's what it takes to stay true to myself. At first, it felt uncomfortable. People still judged him. Some even misunderstood him more. But this time, he didn't respond. He didn't correct. He didn't chase clarity. He just stayed consistent. And over time, something powerful happened. The noise around him started to fade. Not because people suddenly understood him, but because their opinions no longer controlled him. And when that happens, you become free. This is one of the hardest Stoic lessons to accept. You are not responsible for how people perceive you. Read that again, slowly. You are not responsible for how people perceive you. You are responsible for your actions. Your values. Your discipline. Your character. But perception? That belongs to them. And once you accept that, you stop wasting energy trying to control what was never yours to control. You stop over-explaining your decisions. You stop defending your lifestyle. You stop justifying your boundaries. Because you realize something deeper. People don't need to understand you for your life to work. You don't need agreement to move forward. You don't need validation to stay consistent. You don't need approval to be at peace. Understanding is a bonus, not a requirement. And the moment you stop needing it, you become dangerous in a quiet, powerful way. Because now, you move with clarity. Not for recognition. Not for acceptance. But from truth. And people can feel that. They may not understand you. But they will sense something different about you. A kind of calm. A kind of certainty. A kind of independence. The kind that doesn't ask for permission to exist. So the next time someone misunderstands you, resist the urge to explain. Let them think what they want. Because your life is not a presentation. It's a path. And not everyone walking past you deserves a guided tour. Lesson 3: Over-explaining lowers your value. There's something subtle that happens every time you over-explain yourself. You don't notice it immediately. It doesn't feel obvious. But people feel it. Every extra word. Every long justification. Every attempt to make others fully understand you quietly lowers your perceived value. Not because what you're saying is wrong, but because of what it signals. It signals uncertainty. It signals that you're seeking approval. It signals that you don't fully stand on your decisions, unless others agree with them. And the truth is, people don't respect what looks unsure. They don't trust what feels like it needs constant validation. Think about it. When someone makes a decision, and stands on it calmly, without over-explaining, you feel something different about them. Even if you don't agree with them, you respect the certainty. But when someone keeps explaining, adding more reasons, trying harder to convince you, what happens? You start to question them. You start to look for flaws. You start to test their position. Because their energy invites it. This is where many people sabotage themselves without realizing it. They think more explanation equals more respect. But in reality, more explanation often invites more doubt. There's a story about a man who was building something important in his life. A new path. A new direction. Something most people around him didn't fully understand. Naturally, they questioned him. Why are you doing this? Are you sure this will work? Don't you think you should play it safe? At first, he responded with long explanations. He broke down his plans. He shared his vision. He tried to make them see what he saw. But instead of support, he got more questions. More doubt. More resistance. Because the more he explained, the more people felt invited to analyze, challenge, and dissect his decisions. It became a cycle. He would explain. They would question. He would explain more. They would doubt more. Until one day, he changed his approach. When asked, he simply said, "This is the direction I've chosen." No long speech. No detailed defense. No need to convince. Just calm certainty. And something interesting happened. People stopped pushing as much. Not because they suddenly believed in his vision, but because his energy no longer invited debate. He wasn't asking to be believed. He was stating his position. And there's a big difference. When you state your position, you hold power. When you try to prove your position, you give power away. That's the shift you need to understand. Over-explaining turns your life into something people feel they can question. But clarity, short, direct, grounded clarity, makes it clear that your decisions are not up for negotiation. This doesn't mean you become arrogant. It doesn't mean you refuse to communicate. It means you become intentional with your words. You say what needs to be said, and nothing more. Because every unnecessary explanation is like lowering your own price. Slowly. Quietly. Until people start treating you based on the value you've shown, not the value you actually have. And once that happens, it's hard to reverse. So you have to start catching yourself. Notice when you're adding extra words that aren't needed. Notice when you're trying to convince instead of simply stating. Notice when you're explaining just to avoid being judged. That awareness alone will change how people see you. Because high-value individuals don't rush to explain themselves. They don't feel the need to justify every move. They understand something most people don't. Not everyone deserves access to your reasoning. Not everyone needs to understand your vision. And not every decision requires a detailed explanation. Sometimes, a simple sentence is enough. Sometimes, silence is enough. And sometimes, walking away without explaining anything at all says more than words ever could. Lesson 4: the more you explain your boundaries, the less people respect them. Most people don't struggle with setting boundaries. They struggle with holding them. And the reason is simple. They keep explaining them. You say no. But then you start adding reasons. I can't come because I'm tired. I won't do that because I have a lot going on. I need space because I've been stressed. And before you realize it, your boundary has turned into a discussion, a negotiation, an opening. Because the moment you explain your boundary too much, you give people something to work with, something to challenge, something to question, something to push against. And people will push. Not always because they're bad, but because that's human nature. If there's space to negotiate, most people will try. This is where the Stoic mind operates differently. A Stoic man doesn't build boundaries on explanations. He builds them on decisions. Clear. Simple. Non-negotiable. There's a story about a man who could never protect his time. Friends would call him last minute, he would go. People would ask for favors, he would say yes. Work would demand more, he would accept. Not because he wanted to, but because he didn't know how to say no without explaining himself. And every time he tried to set a boundary, it sounded like this. I would help, but I'm really busy right now. I wish I could come, but I've been overwhelmed lately. I can't do it this time, maybe next time. And what happened? People kept asking. They kept pushing. They kept finding ways around his no. Because his no didn't feel final. It felt flexible. It felt like something that could be changed with a little pressure. Until one day, he changed one small thing. Not his boundaries. but how he communicated them. When asked for something he didn't want to do, he said, "No, I won't be able to do that." And then, he stopped. No long explanation. No added details. No emotional cushioning. Just a calm, grounded answer. At first, it felt uncomfortable. People asked, why? Some even got annoyed. But this time, he didn't explain. He simply repeated himself, calmly, "I won't be able to." And over time, something shifted. People stopped pushing as much. Not because they liked his answer, but because they understood something clearly. This is a boundary they cannot move. That's the power of clarity. When your boundaries are backed by long explanations, they sound like requests. But when your boundaries are backed by calm certainty, they feel like decisions. And people treat them differently. This is where many people get trapped. They think explaining their boundary will make people respect it more. But it often does the opposite. It signals that you're uncomfortable holding it. It signals that you need the other person to agree with it. It signals that you're open to changing it, if pressured enough. And once people sense that, they will test it. Again, and again, and again. But when your boundary stands without explanation, it forces people to make a choice. Respect it, or lose access to you. And that's where your power is. Because not everyone will respect your boundaries. But everyone will notice how firmly you hold them. And that determines how they treat you. You have to understand this. You are not responsible for making people comfortable with your boundaries. You are responsible for protecting your peace. If someone doesn't like your no, that's their discomfort to deal with, not yours. Because every time you over-explain your boundary to make someone else feel better, you make yourself weaker in the process. And people can feel that. So start practicing this. Say less. Stand firm. Let your no be enough. Let your silence carry the weight of your decision. Because the moment your boundaries stop sounding like negotiations, is the moment people start taking them seriously. Lesson 5, explaining yourself keeps you trapped in other people's expectations. There's a quiet prison most people live in. And they don't even realize it. It's not made of walls. It's not something you can see. It's made of expectations. Other people's expectations. How they think you should live. What they think you should choose. Who they think you should become. And the moment you start explaining yourself too much, you step inside that prison. Because every explanation is, in a subtle way, an attempt to justify why you're not meeting those expectations. Think about that. When you say, "I chose this path because," "I'm doing this because," "I didn't do that because," what are you really doing? You're not just sharing your reasons. You're responding to an invisible standard. A standard set by someone else. And the more you do it, the more your life starts revolving around that standard. You begin to measure your decisions based on how well you can explain them, instead of how true they feel to you. There's a story about a man who always felt like he had to explain his life choices. When he didn't follow the traditional path, people questioned him. When he took risks, people doubted him. When he chose differently, people judged him. And every time, he responded with explanations. Detailed ones. He would explain his vision, his plans, his reasons, trying to make people understand that he wasn't wrong, just different. But over time, something started to change. Not in the people around him, but in him. He began to second-guess himself. Not because he lacked clarity, but because he kept seeing his life through other people's reactions. Every raised eyebrow made him think. Every question made him reconsider. Every doubt made him hesitate. Because the more he explained, the more he unconsciously gave their expectations weight. Until one day, he faced a simple but uncomfortable truth. I am not living my life anymore. I am managing people's opinions of it. That realization hit hard. Because it meant something had to change. And the change didn't start with others. It started with a decision. A quiet one. I will stop explaining my life to people who are not living it. At first, it felt unnatural. People asked questions, and he gave short answers. People expected details, and he gave none. People pushed, and he remained calm. No arguments. No long justifications. No need to prove anything. And slowly, something powerful happened. He started to hear himself again. His own voice. His own clarity. His own direction. Because for the first time in a long time, he wasn't filtering his life through other people's expectations. He was simply living it. This is what happens when you stop over-explaining. You take your life back. Because as long as you feel the need to justify your choices, you are still subconsciously asking for permission. Permission to be different. Permission to take risks. Permission to walk your own path. And that permission will never come. Not from people who are comfortable where they are. Not from people who don't understand your vision. Not from people who are committed to seeing life one way. So you have to give it to yourself. And that starts by removing the habit of constant explanation. You don't need to explain why you chose growth over comfort. You don't need to explain why you walked away from what no longer served you. You don't need to explain why your path looks different. Because your life is not a group project. It's a personal journey. And not everyone has the capacity to understand where you're going. But here's the deeper truth. They don't need to. Your responsibility is not to make your life make sense to everyone. Your responsibility is to make sure it makes sense to you. And the moment you truly accept that, something shifts inside you. You stop looking outward for approval. You stop adjusting your decisions for acceptance. You stop explaining yourself just to feel validated. And instead, you move with quiet certainty. The kind that doesn't need to be announced. The kind that doesn't need to be defended. The kind that doesn't ask for permission. So the next time you feel the urge to explain your life choices, pause. And remind yourself, I don't need to shrink my path just to make it easier for others to understand. Because the moment you stop explaining your life is the moment you finally start living it on your own terms. Lesson 6: Every unnecessary explanation drains your energy. There's something most people never notice. Until they're completely exhausted. It's not just what you do that drains you. It's what you keep trying to prove. Every time you explain yourself when you don't need to. Every time you defend a decision that was already clear to you. Every time you try to make someone get it. You're spending energy. Real energy. Mental energy. Emotional energy. Even physical energy. And the worst part is, most of it goes to waste. Because you're pouring it into people who were never trying to understand you in the first place. Think about how you feel after certain conversations. Not the peaceful ones. Not the genuine ones. The draining ones. The ones where you had to repeat yourself. Where you had to clarify again and again. Where you left thinking, why did I even bother explaining all that? That feeling. That heaviness. That quiet frustration. That's the cost of over-explaining. There's a story about a man who always felt tired, even when he hadn't done much. On the outside, his life looked normal. Work. Conversations. Daily responsibilities. Nothing extreme. But internally, he was always drained. And he couldn't understand why. Until he started paying attention. Not to what he was doing. But to how he was interacting. He noticed something subtle. In almost every conversation, he was explaining himself. Explaining why he made certain choices. Explaining why he couldn't do certain things. Explaining what he meant, over and over again. It wasn't loud. It wasn't obvious. But it was constant. Like a background noise that never stopped. And that's when he realized something powerful. I am not tired from life. I am tired from trying to justify it. That realization changed everything. Because once he saw it, he couldn't unsee it. So he made a small shift. He didn't try to talk less just for the sake of it. He became intentional. If something didn't need explanation, he didn't explain it. If someone didn't understand him the first time, he didn't rush to clarify again. If a decision was already made, he didn't reopen it just to satisfy curiosity. And slowly, something started to change. He felt lighter. Calmer. More present. Because his energy was no longer being scattered across unnecessary conversations. He was keeping it. And that's where real power begins. Because energy is not just about how active you are. It's about how focused you are. When your energy is constantly leaking through over-explaining, your presence weakens. You start to feel less grounded. Less certain. Less in control. But when you stop, when you hold your energy instead of giving it away, people feel that shift. You become more composed. More centered. More deliberate. Your words carry more weight, because there are fewer of them. Your presence becomes stronger, because it's not diluted by constant justification. This is something most people overlook. They think power comes from doing more, saying more, proving more. But real power often comes from restraint. From knowing when not to speak. From knowing what doesn't deserve your energy. From knowing that not every question requires an answer. Because every answer you give costs you something. So you have to start asking yourself, is this worth my energy? Not every misunderstanding is worth correcting. Not every opinion is worth responding to. Not every situation is worth explaining yourself in. And once you start filtering your responses like that, you'll notice a shift. You'll feel less drained, less reactive, less scattered. And more importantly, you'll feel more in control of yourself. Because you're no longer operating from pressure. You're operating from choice. That's the difference. Most people speak because they feel they have to. But when you reach this level, you speak because you choose to. And that changes everything. So the next time you feel that urge to explain, pause. Take a breath. And ask yourself, is this necessary, or am I just used to giving my energy away? Because the moment you stop feeding every situation with your attention, is the moment your presence becomes powerful enough to speak without saying much at all. Lesson 7. People respect what you don't explain more than what you do. There's a strange shift that happens when you stop explaining everything. At first, people notice the silence. Then, they start to feel it. And eventually, they respect it. Because what you choose not to explain creates a different kind of presence. One that feels grounded. One that feels certain. One that doesn't ask for permission to exist. Most people think respect is earned through communication. Through expressing more. Through proving more. Through making others understand. But in reality, respect is often built on what you hold back. Think about the people you naturally respect. They don't talk too much. They don't explain every move. They don't feel the need to convince you of who they are. There's something about them. Something quiet. Something steady. You don't fully know everything about them. But you can feel their certainty. And that feeling is what commands respect. There's a story about a man who used to explain everything about his life. His plans. His decisions. His next moves. He believed that being open would make people respect him more. So he shared freely. Explained deeply. Spoke often. But instead of gaining respect, he became predictable. People knew too much. They questioned more. They doubted more. They even started giving opinions he never asked for. Because when you explain everything, you remove mystery. And without mystery, people feel less need to respect your space. They feel closer than they should. More familiar than they've earned. Until one day, he changed something simple. He stopped explaining everything. When people asked about his plans, he kept it short. When they tried to dig deeper, he stayed calm but reserved. When they expected long answers, he gave just enough. No hostility. No arrogance. Just control. And over time, something shifted. People became more careful around him. More observant. More respectful. Not because he demanded it, but because his silence created distance. And that distance created value. This is something most people misunderstand. They think being fully open makes people value them more. But value is often tied to access. And when access is unlimited, value decreases. When people can question everything about you. When they can analyze every decision. When they can challenge every move. They stop seeing you as someone to respect. And start seeing you as someone to evaluate. But when you limit what you explain, you change that dynamic. You remove yourself from constant scrutiny. You create a boundary without saying it. And people feel that. They may not understand it consciously, but they respond to it. Because humans naturally respect what feels self-contained. What doesn't need validation? What doesn't need constant expression? This doesn't mean you become distant or disconnected. It means you become intentional. You choose what to share, and what to keep. You speak when it adds value, not when it fills silence. You explain when it's necessary, not when it's expected. And that creates a different kind of presence. One that feels composed. One that feels secure. One that doesn't chase understanding, but allows it to come naturally. There's a quiet confidence in not revealing everything. In knowing that your life doesn't need to be fully understood to be fully lived. And that confidence is what people respect. So the next time you feel the urge to explain more than necessary, pause. Ask yourself, am I sharing this because it matters, or because I feel the need to be seen? Because not everything needs to be seen. Not everything needs to be explained. And not everything needs to be understood. Sometimes, the less you say, the more people feel. And what they feel will always carry more weight than what you try to explain. Lesson 8: Every explanation you give invites judgment you didn't ask for. There's something most people don't realize about explaining themselves. It doesn't just clarify. It exposes. The moment you start explaining your decisions too much, you're no longer just sharing information. You are opening your life for inspection. And once people feel invited in, they don't just listen. They evaluate. They question. They compare. They criticize. Sometimes even without realizing it. Not always out of malice. But because explanation creates space for opinion. Think about it. When you state something simply, people hear it and move on. But when you start breaking it down, when you start adding reasons, layers, justifications, you unconsciously tell people, this is open for discussion. And once something becomes open for discussion, it becomes open for judgment. There's a story about a man who used to explain every major decision in his life. Why he changed careers. Why he moved differently. Why he chose certain people and avoided others. At first, it felt normal to him. He thought clarity would bring understanding. But something strange started happening. The more he explained, the more opinions he received. Some people agreed. Some questioned him. Some quietly judged him. Others started projecting their own fears onto his decisions. And slowly, his life stopped feeling like his own. Because instead of living his choices, he was constantly reacting to how others interpreted them. Even when nobody was speaking, he could feel their imagined opinions in his mind. That's the hidden cost of over-explaining. It doesn't just invite judgment from others. It makes you carry it internally. Until one day, he realized something important. I didn't just give people information. I gave them permission to evaluate my life. That realization changed how he moved. He stopped explaining unnecessary things. He became more selective with his words. Not secretive. Not closed off. Just intentional. When something needed to be said, he said it clearly. When something didn't, he left it unsaid. And over time, something shifted. The noise reduced. Not around him, but inside him. Because when you stop inviting unnecessary judgment, you also stop carrying unnecessary pressure. This is what most people don't understand. You don't just avoid criticism by staying silent. You also protect your mental space. Because every explanation you give opens a mental door. A door where people's opinions can walk in freely. And once they're inside, it's hard to close it again. You start replaying conversations. You start questioning your own decisions. You start trying to fix perceptions that were never fully accurate to begin with. And all of that drains you. Not because your choices were wrong, but because you made them too visible for unnecessary interpretation. A Stoic mind learns to separate what is worth sharing from what is worth protecting. Not everything needs commentary. Not everything needs reasoning. Not everything needs external validation. Some things are meant to be lived, not explained. And the more you explain, the more you unintentionally hand over control of your narrative to people who were never involved in your journey. So you have to become aware of this pattern. Ask yourself, is this explanation necessary, or am I just trying to avoid imagined judgment? Because many times, you're not responding to real criticism. You're responding to the fear of it. And that fear is what keeps you over-explaining in the first place. But the truth is simple. People will always have opinions. Even when you explain. Even when you don't. Even when you try your best to be understood. So you have to choose what matters more. Your peace, or their interpretation. Because you cannot protect both at the same time. And the moment you accept that, you stop living for approval. You stop adjusting your life for commentary. And you start moving with clarity again. Quietly. Deliberately. Without feeling the need to explain every step along the way. Lesson 9, the less you explain, the more influence you carry. Influence doesn't come from how much you say. It comes from how much weight your words carry. And weight is often created by restraint. Most people misunderstand this. They think influence is built through persuasion. Through explaining. Through convincing others to see things their way. So they talk more. They justify more. They repeat themselves more. But the more they speak, the lighter their words become. Because when everything is explained, nothing feels significant anymore. There's no space left for thought. No space left for curiosity. No space left for presence. Just noise. And people don't follow noise. They tune it out. There's a story about a man who noticed something interesting in how people responded to him over time. When he used to explain everything, people listened, but didn't really take him seriously. They nodded. They agreed politely. But they rarely followed his lead. He had information, but not influence. Then something changed. He started saying less. Not out of pride. Not to appear mysterious. But because he realized something. Not everything needs to be said to be understood. So instead of long explanations, he became precise. Instead of convincing, he became clear. Instead of repeating himself, he trusted his first statement. And slowly, people started changing how they responded to him. They listened more carefully. They asked fewer unnecessary questions. They started paying attention to what he didn't say as much as what he did. Because now, his words had space. Space to land. Space to be felt. Space to be interpreted. And that space created influence. This is what most people miss. When you constantly explain yourself, you remove the tension that makes your words powerful. You remove the depth that makes people think. You remove the silence that gives meaning to what you say. Influence is not built by overwhelming people with information. It is built by allowing your presence and words to settle in their mind. There's a difference between being heard and being felt. People hear explanations, but they feel certainty. And certainty doesn't need many words. It doesn't chase agreement. It doesn't fight for understanding. It doesn't overextend itself to be accepted. It simply stands. And people adjust around it. This is why Stoic men often speak less. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand the power of economy in communication. Every unnecessary word weakens impact. Every extra explanation dilutes authority. Every attempt to overclarify reduces presence. So they choose carefully. They speak when it matters. They remain silent when it doesn't. And when they do speak, it carries weight. Because it is not buried under layers of justification. This is where influence quietly begins. Not in control. Not in dominance. Not in persuasion. But in restraint. The restraint to not over-explain what is already clear to you. The restraint to not chase validation through words. The restraint to allow others to sit with your silence. Because in that silence, people start to think. They start to interpret. They start to observe. And ironically, the less you explain, the more they pay attention. That is where real influence lies. Not in forcing understanding, but in becoming someone whose presence makes people want to understand on their own. So the next time you feel the urge to explain more than necessary, pause. Ask yourself, will this add clarity, or will it weaken my message? Because sometimes, the strongest thing you can say is exactly what you choose not to repeat. And in that space, influence begins to grow. Quietly. Naturally. Without effort. Lesson 10. Your life stops being powerful the moment you start explaining it too much. At the deepest level, the habit of over-explaining is not really about communication. It's about control. Or more accurately, the fear of losing it. Because when you feel misunderstood, when you feel judged, when you feel questioned, the instinct is to correct the story, to fix the perception, to restore balance, to make people see you properly. But in doing that, you slowly step out of your own life and into the minds of other people. You begin living in reaction to how you are perceived, instead of living from what you know to be true. And that is where your power begins to fade. There's a quiet truth most people only recognize after years of experience. The more you try to be fully understood, the less powerful your life feels. Because life is not meant to be fully explained. It is meant to be lived. There was a man who spent most of his early years trying to make everyone understand him. His intentions. His choices. His direction. He believed that if people understood him, they would support him. And if they supported him, he would feel confident. So he explained everything. Every decision. Every move. Every thought. But over time, something subtle happened. He became reactive. Instead of moving forward with certainty, he started moving with awareness of how it would be interpreted. Instead of trusting his direction, he started anticipating people's questions. Instead of living his life, he started managing its perception. And slowly, without realizing it, he became disconnected from himself. Until one day, he stopped and asked a simple question. Why does my life feel heavier when I try to make it understandable to everyone? The answer was uncomfortable. Because in trying to be understood by everyone, he had stopped being grounded in himself. That was the turning point. He didn't change his goals. He didn't change his path. He changed his relationship with explanation. He stopped trying to justify what was already clear in his own mind. He stopped rehearsing answers for imaginary questions. He stopped performing clarity for people who weren't walking his journey. And something powerful happened. His life became lighter. Not easier, but clearer. Because clarity was no longer something he had to prove. It was something he carried internally. This is the final Stoic lesson most people never fully accept. You do not need to explain a life that is aligned. When your actions are grounded. When your decisions are intentional. When your direction is clear. You don't need constant validation. You don't need constant approval. You don't need constant explanation. Because real power is not loud. It does not constantly defend itself. It does not constantly justify itself. It does not constantly seek agreement. It simply moves. Quietly. Consistently. Unbothered by misunderstanding. And here is the truth that ties everything together. The moment you stop explaining yourself to everyone, you stop living inside their expectations. And you return to your own path. That is where strength